Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Zamboni. I'm an herbalist and astrologer. I am coming at you from mid-Missouri this week, and it's time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sending this to your friend if they got some things to look forward to this week as well. Thank you so much for sending me a tip via PayPal, Cash App, the Venmo. Thank you so much for joining my Patreon, where I talk about astro basics and how to use the astrology that we're living through in order to live your best life and have your best time. Thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about the also go to thealchemistKitchen.com and use the discount code ZamboniFunk for 10% off anything in store or online. Thank you so much for doing that. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead. So this week, we have some important ingresses, which are, so an ingress is when a planet moves from one sign into the next sign, or a regress, which is also going to happen this week. So we've had Jupiter in Pisces for the past, 2.5, 3 months or something like this. We've had, I think it's 2 months. It was middle of May that Jupiter went into Pisces. And so Jupiter is at home in Pisces. And so this was signaled with much glory and singing. I was very excited about Jupiter in Pisces. There's been much excitement around the internet around Jupiter in Pisces. People really like Jupiter in Pisces for sure. It's been really good for healing. It's been really good for basic pleasures like wholesome fun, these kinds of things, you know. But it maybe wasn't time for all that yet, you know? So Jupiter is actually going to move back into Aquarius now. Jupiter's been retrograde for a little bit and is going to move back into Aquarius. And it's really interesting that at the same time that Jupiter is going to move back into Aquarius, then Mars is going to move from Leo into Virgo. And so Leo is opposite to Aquarius, Virgo is opposite to Pisces. So what's going to happen here is Jupiter and Mars are just going to oppose each other just for a moment, moving in opposite directions. And Mars is our planet of rage and fighting and conflict and doing shit, action. Mars is the one who wants to exert will in the world and all this sort of stuff. And so, to see Mars opposing Jupiter like that, it feels like a wake-up call for Jupiter. Jupiter's been kind of dreamy in Pisces, Pisces is a really good place to have thick emotional content. It's a really good place to have dreams or to have visions. Pisces is known for maybe being a little bit melty sometimes, like melt into the couch or melt into the bottle or whatever it is, right? These kinds of things, there's like a desire to get a little dreamy with it. And then furthermore, Pisces is off axis to Aquarius and Leo. And so Aquarius and Leo has been where the main shit has been taking place. Aquarius is where Saturn is. Leo is where Mars was, and Venus, and the Sun is now in here. And then Mercury is also going to move in here this week as well. And so there's this like big polarity between Aquarius and Leo. Aquarius wants to do systems management, wants to talk about order and efficiency. I've been thinking about bosses and technocracy here a lot. We can recall that the internet itself is going through its Saturn return. Saturn was in Aquarius at the time that the first email was sent. And so this is, this kind of technology coming to a kind of maturity, right? And so the idea of Saturn being an authority of some sort, and looking to look into regulations and all this kind of thing, right? We've been seeing a lot of regulations around cryptocurrency and these kinds of things as well. With the sort of like digital sphere and what can happen on the internet is coming into regulation or is coming under the scrutiny of authority or whatever, right? So that's what's going on in Aquarius, versus Leo has been very much more sort of around personal sovereignty. It's been very much around like, who am I and what do I have to contribute to the world? Whenever I think about Leo or the Sun in Leo, I think very much about like this little light of mine. Like, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. And so that's what Leo wants to do, and that's what the Sun in Leo wants to do, right? And so how does this little light of mine factor in when we're talking about a technocratic, more efficient system at large, a more efficient digital world. How does this look? What does this mean? And so this has been very much the kind of dynamic that we've been looking at with Aquarius versus Leo. And so Jupiter in Pisces has been off axis to that. Jupiter in Pisces has been like, oh, but what if we like played some games? Or what if we had a nice time just not really thinking about that, not really paying attention to all that, right? And now Jupiter is going to move back into the fray, and in order to get there, then Mars is going to show up and be like, yo, wake up. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? There's a bit of a wake up call energy here for Jupiter. And so it's really, so Jupiter, who has been in Pisces, been really strong in Pisces, Jupiter is now going to move back into this place where Saturn is. Saturn is both present and the ruler of Pisces. And so we're back into this sort of Saturnian mode. The good news here is that we, so while Jupiter was out of Pisces, then it was kind of just like all malefic everything when it came to Aquarius and or fixed signs. So every time the moon goes through a fixed sign, which would be Aquarius or then Taurus or then Leo or then Scorpio, anytime the moon goes through here, which is going to take 2.5 days or something like that every week, then it's, every time the moon goes through that, then the moon has been like interacting with malefics, and it's just been like, rough and tumble, gotta fight, gotta deal with shit that's uncomfortable, gotta handle challenges, look at problems, these kinds of things, right? But to have Jupiter at the end of Aquarius means that first we got to do problems, but then later we get to look at maybe healing or solutions or betterment, improvement. These are the kinds of things that Jupiter likes to look at. And so although Jupiter is not as strong in Aquarius, it is a little bit helpful for us to have this kind of lens, or to have, when it looks like it's all malefic everything, then it's nice to come around and be like, oh, but there's something cute here as well. There's something fun. There's something worthwhile. Jupiter is often associated with wisdom and meaning. And so to have to deal with the challenges that Saturn and Uranus, of course, right? I've talked about Uranus and Saturn a lot. If this is your first time checking it out, check out last week's video or the one before that. I've been talking about Saturn, Uranus a lot. But so there's this Saturn-Uranus drama, which looks really tense and looks like a lot of stuff. But then, the next day we get to be like, okay, so how do I feel about that? Or what do I get to know about this, right? And it's not just the moon, right? So the sun has moved into Leo and is approaching an opposition with Saturn. So Saturn is in Aquarius, rules Aquarius. The sun is in Leo, rules Leo. And so there's a strong, before it was Mars and Venus, right? And so Mars and Venus definitely wanted to push on stuff, and Mars and Venus definitely had a sort of flamboyant, what about me kind of attitude. It can get a little performative and a little bit like, hello, with Venus and Leo, and Mars and Leo is definitely going to add fire to that, right? Now both of these have moved into Virgo, but the sun here is in Leo. And so the sun in Leo is definitely flamboyant and big, the lion with the mane and all this, Jaja, watch over eye, all these things, right? But at the same time, the sun in Leo is so very solid. The sun in Leo is so very certain, very sure of itself. One of the things that I really come back to with the sun all the time is the sun is associated with consistency. And there's a certain kind of constant way that the sun operates. And actually, this is only opposed to Saturn in that the sun, it wants to be bright and shiny, and Saturn wants to be dark and disciplined and into consequences and this sort of stuff. But the fact is that both of them really like consistency. Both of them really like showing up every day in the same kind of way, right? That's what the sun does. The sun comes up in the east and then goes across and then goes down in the west. And that's what the sun does every damn day. The sun never turns around and goes retrograde. The sun goes at about 1 degree per day every day. The sun doesn't really change what it does. And so this kind of consistency is gonna come into conflict with whatever the challenges have been. But there's also, it's like, we're looking at two sides of the same coin here, right? And so it's important to remember that it is, in fact, the same coin. And so, as we're thinking about my own personal sovereignty, then we're also going to be thinking about the way that I choose to interact in the digital sphere, if we're going to go down the technocratic route, right? Or the way that I choose to interact with authorities, or the way that I choose to enact systems, right? And so this is a really interesting dynamic that is sort of building up. The sun is going to be moving into this opposition with Saturn. And another thing that's really interesting is that as soon as the sun hits this opposition with Saturn, actually Mercury is going to be in there making that same opposition at the same time. So the sun, or Mercury, is going to come up and conjoin the sun at the same moment that they oppose Saturn. And so whenever I think about Mercury and the sun, I definitely think about some kind of important expression of self, some kind of important expression, or communication of one's own personal ideals, especially here in Leo. This Cazimi moment, Cazimi means in the heart of the sun, when Mercury moves into the heart of the sun. And so then in this Cazimi moment, it's like, so if the sun is the king or the personal sovereign, then it's like the Mercury gets a special gift or a special, permission from the king to make a special broadcast in the case of Mercury. And so there's something really truthful that wants to come out during this time. And it feels like, in opposition to Saturn here, it feels very much like speaking truth to power in some kind of a really important way. And also, if we sort of zoom out a little bit, right, this is one out of 3 times that we're going to have the sun in Leo opposite to Saturn in Aquarius. We had this last year. We're going to have this again next year. And so now this is, and it's not just this, it's all the fixed signs, right? And so we're going to do Mars and Scorpio a little later in the year and all this sort of stuff, right? So this is a part of the larger story that wants to take place across a period of 3 years here. And so this is an installment, and in the way that we sort of figure out how we each individually are going to interact with this kind of larger system, which has been so very powerful in the past year and a half or so, or even longer than that. Saturn's been in great dignity since 2017. So we're looking at 4 years of really strong Saturn right now, and it's not done yet. So there's all this Saturn, which has been super strong and present in the minds and in the just the life that we live. And so here is an important moment when the sun is going to oppose that Saturn, where we're going to really start to feel that in a really personal, heartfelt kind of way. The sun is strongly associated with the heart. And now is a really good time to maybe shore up your heart-centered practice. Are you doing anything to open your heart? Are you doing anything to protect your heart? Are you doing anything to heal your heart? And this could be, heart healing feels like hugs. Heart healing feels like, it feels like exercising. The sun in Leo is really good for strong vitality, right? Moving around and being strong in your body, and moving around, and like even going outside into the sunshine and moving around is really good, has been demonstrated to be really good for flow in the cardiovascular system and these kinds of things. So how is the heart muscle associated with the metaphoric heart, I love you with all my heart sort of style, right? There's a clear connection here that goes through the sun, right? And so the sun is going to have to engage with this more systemic issue and have to deal with that in some kind of way. And we're going to do this across a long period of time. But this is an important moment. This is a really big and crucial moment in this process. And so it's a good time to sort of maintain one's center. Remember that the heart can be at the center. And, to really just sort of engage this process. I speak about Saturn as if Saturn is the villain a lot of the time, because Saturn is the greater malefic and all this. But, now's a really good time to interrogate, where are you an authority in your life, right? Maybe you run a business and you are the boss sometimes, or maybe You are a manager of some sort. Maybe you have created some kind of system that you want to make more efficient. Maybe you are generating some kind of infrastructure. That's been one of the things that I've been really calling for all year. Generate some infrastructure so that your own personal systems will work better. Where are you, Saturn, right? And when you are sort of embodying Saturn, which is what the full moon in Aquarius this last week really wanted to do. It wanted to embody Saturn. In that moment when you embody Saturn, then, how do you engage with rebellion, or how do you engage with this idea of personal sovereignty and a personal individual or a heart-centered practice? How are these things working together? How are these things working against each other? You know what I mean? Are these things actually enemies? These are really good questions to be asking this week. So I feel like I've run out of time here, so I don't know that I'm going to get to Mars moving into Virgo, but trust and believe that Mars into Virgo is going to be a real big deal, especially once Mercury gets in there with him. Virgo is a place of a bit of contention right now. Mars is in there. Venus is in there as well. We like Venus for being a benefic, but Venus can be a little bit nitpicky in Virgo sometimes. And so this isn't a super feel-good, it feels so sweet and delicious kind of Venus, which is what we tend to think of when we think about Venus and love and attraction and all this sort of stuff. So there's a little bit of difficulty here around that. It's interesting to see that we've got two benefics, Venus and Jupiter, who are not in their own signs. They're both with malefics. And so whenever we try to do the benefic stuff, then it's going to probably come with the challenges. And so, whenever we're looking at healing or fun or sweetness or abundance or any of that sort of stuff, it's likely to be in context of this sort of larger struggle with challenges and problems and dealing with, are we going to be able to reconcile these things that seem on the surface to be irreconcilable? So thanks so much for hanging out with me. Like I said, I didn't get to everything, so be sure to check out the dailies all week. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for saving this or sending it to your friend. Thank you for a tip via PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. That shit is way helpful. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sending me some coffee. It takes a lot of coffee for me to be able to do this kind of work. Thank you just for watching this far. I really appreciate you being here, and I look forward to seeing y'all next time. Thank you so much. Bye.